You're listening to That's the Hashtag Truth with Daniel and Jenny Muscatell, where we let real people get real honest about the bottom line. Joining us today, we have Dr. Amanda Adkins, MD, who is a double board certified internal medicine, lifestyle medicine physician, health coach, owner of Enlightenment Health and Wealth. She has a deep passion for ensuring that everyone has a chance at a healthy and happy life. Her most recent focus has been to help women who are overweight prevent and possibly reverse chronic illness such as diabetes, heart disease, and high blood pressure. Both through her medical and personal experience, she knows how our lifestyle can lead to remarkable changes in our health and our ability to fulfill God's will for our lives. Dr. Amanda, welcome. You are a woman on fire. You have accomplished so many things, and I'm just so excited because you use all the knowledge you have to help other people and empower them to reach their goals. And I just have to ask, where does your passion and drive come from?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. I would say it came from my grandparents. So they were very big in education when I was growing up. Like, we couldn't talk with my grandfather without him talking about education. And it was my grandmothers that, always took me to Sunday school, vacation Bible school, things like that. And I was like, oh my goodness, never thought that I would, be this accomplished with becoming a physician, but they definitely instilled in me that I can accomplish anything, through prayer and just hard work. So that's how I got here today.
Oh, that's awesome. So you said that, they never had the idea that, oh, maybe you'd become a physician, but that was your goal. When did you decide this is what I want to do with my life?
And that was in sixth grade. I was in a health class, and I always shout out to my sixth grade teacher, Mr. Ivy, who really got the students interactive that day. So he actually placed on the ground the heart, the human heart, or a depiction of that, and the students walked through as if they were blood flowing through the heart. And no one in my family was in healthcare or, physician, nurses, anything. And just from that, I'm like, oh, the human body is amazing. I want to be a physician too. And so, excuse me, from there, I'm just like, okay, I have to read up and see how I can become a doctor. And my grandfather, he actually, once I told him that, he took me to his cardiologist because to meet someone in the field and to know that. So that's why, I was like, oh, my grandparents were great. But yeah, it just came from like, this human body is awesome. I want to learn more about it and how I can help people.
Oh my gosh, I love that story. One, how cool is it that you have this very distinct moment? I think a lot of times in life, people are like, well, it was this and this and this, but you're like, I remember the moment. And so this sixth grade young girl is like, this is what I'm going to do. And then you do it. And I also love that your grandpa was like, and I'm going to foster this. So let's explore this early on. Come meet my cardiologist. That's really awesome.
Yeah, that sounds like a fun day in class. I mean, if you're walking around the picture, at first I thought you meant it came off a printer. This didn't just come off a printer.
Oh no.
How big?
So this was back. Yeah, this is back in the 80s. So, you didn't have this technology like you do today that you would just see it and, graph. So no, it was a huge poster, I should say, not just a picture. Yeah.
Do you learn by doing?
I usually learn by reading, but that was just so like just the picture of it and just the flow. It was just something totally different than what I was used to. But yeah. I'm definitely a reader. I love to read.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, for people who are listening, if maybe they don't know the difference or understand, what is exactly an internal medicine doctor and a lifestyle medicine doctor?
Yes. So a lot of people are like, yeah, exactly. What is internal medicine? So I usually tell them it's doctor for adults. So we do 18 years old all the way. My oldest patient was 102. So a big difference with that. And we do everything that has to do with internal things. So if you have like heart issues, high blood pressure, diabetes, back pain, depression, anxiety, just the whole gamut of things that can go on with an adult. And I practice outpatient medicine. So a lot of people think of it just as like their family doctor, but it's different than family practice because they actually see children. And in internal medicine do not see children. And then lifestyle medicine is when we actually focus on 6 pillars of health, which is predominantly plant-based nutrition, exercise, sleep, stress reduction, social connection, and decreasing risk of toxic substances. So this is more a relatively new specialty, and I just happened to come upon it because of my own life experience and just trying to figure out what else can I do for people besides prescribe medication, because that's what you do a lot as an internal medicine doctor. But a lot of people did not want medication. They wanted something else and more natural, but then lifestyle medicine is evidence-based. So I went down that road.
When lifestyle medicine came up, did you have to think about it, or did you just like jump on it and be like, this fits?
I jumped on it and said, this fits. Because I was looking for something like this. And so I did like a homeopathic class, and I was like, no, this is not quite it, because that's still different, like medication. And then I looked at functional medicine, which is similar, but I was like, I didn't want to go that deep. They do other things is like, I think deep in the woods, not to, I refer a lot of people to functional medicine, but that's not what I was looking for either. And then this is not as distinct as when I want to become a physician, but someone mentioned lifestyle. And I was like, I didn't know that was a thing. And I just happened to Google it. And I was like, oh, this is a whole board certification, a whole specialty in its own. And when I saw that, I said, this is what I've been looking for this whole time. So.
Well, it's really awesome because it sounds like what you can do with both of those specialties, and what it sounds like is part of your passion as a person is to treat a person as a whole and look at their entire situation to help them move forward, which makes a lot of sense because it's never just one barrier that gets in the way of somebody succeeding, right? There's usually a complex collection of things. So I'm thinking from the outside, like, wow, look at her go, but then you take it even a step further because you offer coaching to people as well. And so do you want to tell us a little bit about what that entails and how you go about that process?
Yes. So that came about because, as you may know, you go to the doctor, you get maybe 15 to 20 minutes with them, right? Yep. And to actually make lifestyle changes, it takes a whole lot more interaction than just that 15, 20 minutes. And then it's like, I'll see you in 6 months. And what I was finding is that most people, they would hear the information, but it wouldn't actually, go deep within. And so they would come back and nothing had changed. They're like, oh yeah, I remember you saying that. And oh yeah. And then I remember I had an appointment coming up. So I started that 2 weeks ago, even though I saw him 6 months ago. Right. So I was like, okay, I have to come up with something else that they can actually help. And then I heard about health coaching. And since I'm based in California, I have people that I know all over the US. And so you cannot practice medicine if you don't have a license in the States. But with lifestyle medicine, because there's so many things you can do without actually having to practice medicine, I decided to go down the health coaching route because I can reach more people, come on to podcasts like this and talk about how to actually make lifestyle changes and not necessarily go under the umbrella of practicing medicine, but it still makes a big difference in someone's health.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And it's really neat too, because, you're one spot on correct. How many of us have gone to a doctor, gotten some advice, but then life gets busy and maybe you don't implement it, or maybe you forget, or you don't ask all the right questions. And so you have to wait until you can get another appointment to kind of get in and say, hey, what do we do from here? But also the thing that stands out to me about that is when you're taking that extra step to say, hey, we need something a little bit more, that's so much deeper, I think, than what it even sounds like on the surface, because when you're working in any job, any career, there's systems in place, and those systems are wonderful and they serve a purpose. But those systems do allow you, like you say, only those 20 minutes at a time, because there's a triage. There's a number of people that you have to see. There's a lot of needs competing. And so taking that extra step to spend that time, it makes so much sense.
Yeah, it does. What do you see in your patient's reaction in the 20-minute office setting versus the health coach setting? Do you see like your patient interaction with you like change in a really different way?
Well, I think I understand people more on the health coaching side because I get to talk to them more, really dig deep down in like what their barriers are, like you said, because usually in the office visit, I was just like, here, okay, what do you eat? What type of exercise do you do? Try this, and then I'm out of the room. Whereas I can go back and forth with someone that I'm actually coaching because they're like, okay, I've tried this, and then this happened. Okay, I said, okay, so let's course correct. And we can do that, in weeks instead of months.
Yeah.
So that's what I loved about the health coaching. And then I also can stay laser focused because as a general internal medicine doctor, they may come in with 20 different complaints, and I'm like, that's not what we can, do in this time period. And so we can, kind of tease out a little bit more as we have more time and really stay focused on the disease states that really are impacting their lives at that point in time. Which again, when you have 20 complaints in 20 minutes, how much really can you really dig deep into those? I'm just like, do this, and then out of the room. So,
yeah.
Which serves a purpose, of course, and it does an amazing thing, but it is nice to be able to take that time and do some of those other little pieces to get to the bottom of things. Now, as you've started this process and you've started coaching people individually, is there privacy, I get, you know what I mean? But is there a specific maybe story that stands out to you that you think back and you're like, oh, that was so rewarding?
Yeah, it was one lady that I coached that she was able to like lose weight on her own, but she felt so trapped by calorie counting, and that would trigger her, and she would like really go deep, and it would take her to a dark place, and she thought she had to over exercise, and like I said, she lost the weight, but she wasn't happy. And so when we actually dug deep and talked more, because I talk about plant-based nutrition on how it's more about the whole person, how you're feeling. You don't have to count calories. You don't have to focus on necessarily weight loss, but we want you to be a healthy person overall. And that freed her up. And she still, lost weight. She actually lost 30 pounds and keeping it off and is happier because she doesn't feel that restriction. She knows, how her plate should look and what she should do, how much exercising she should do. And just to free her from that, because, most people go on these yo-yo diets where they're up and down. And that was her. And just to see, even I'm thinking now it's like 2 years later that she's still on track because that was, like I said, it was just freeing. And that's why I continue to do what I do, because it's like to see people like her. It's just amazing. And I don't always necessarily get that feedback immediately from, patients. I do have patient stories that are a little bit different, but that was the health coaching side that made me think, okay, this is really what I should be doing also, in addition to my physician practice.
Mm-hmm. Well, and she has this story of, gosh, I was on this yo-yo diet and this is working or this isn't working, and you're back and forth. But I feel like that's so many people's story.
Right.
I really, honestly, I'm thinking in my head, I can't think of a woman that I know that hasn't been through that place, at least at some point in their life, where like, I've tried this or I've tried that and I can't stick with it, or this happens. And well, I'm going to try this diet now or this one,
Mm-hmm.
and it's hard to know what to do because there's so much information out there. And without having the evidence-based medical information that goes behind that, it can be really confusing for people when they want to start their journey. And so you have this perfect combination of, you get the science behind what's going on because of your medical background, but also the lifestyle piece of saying, this is what will work. So that being said, have like a specific, I know you mentioned plant-based nutrition, and so with that, do you have like a specific focus that you're like, okay, this is the area, that I swear by, or, I'm sure it's individualized, but.
So I start people off plant-based. Like when they first start the program, it's like they go to what I call a detox or a cleansing. Just because people most time don't realize how bad or low energy they have until they actually do something different. And when I say plant-based, is like they're eating whole foods, they're eating fresh food, things like that the body really needs, and you actually have a lot, like it feeds you energy. So not only do you feel better, you sleep better, you have more energy, you have less joint pains and aches, and more, your mind is not as clogged. So a lot of people say they have better mental clarity. And so I always take people down that road first, so they actually see how plant-based nutrition actually helps. And then if they decide they want to stay 100% plant-based, that's their choice. The lady I was just talking about, she's more like, I describe her as plant predominant in her food choices. So most of her plate is full of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and then she may have meat on the side. And so usually when I have people, I try to at least get them to that point to where they may just have a little bit of meat on the side. If they don't want to be 100% plant-based. I just have a couple people that's like, oh no, I want to do 100% plant-based. So because I know how much research is out there that actually how plant-based nutrition can reverse those illnesses that we talked about, that you mentioned earlier in my bio, that's why I really focus on that, because that's my family and what they have been affected by. So that's why I have that passion for those specific illnesses and actually to see those reversed.
That's awesome. When you coach someone and they go plant-based, at least like you said, for the cleanse part, and they come back to you, do they often come back like, wow, this is really working, I feel so much better? Do a lot of people say that?
Yes. So let's see, what story can I use? One lady was like, I thought I was going to be hungry all the time. I thought I was going to be miserable. Yeah. And I was surprised by the flavor from the food, how much more I can actually taste, because also your taste buds change, because we're so used to high salt, high sugar, high fat foods, and to know that vegetables actually have a taste. That she was so surprised and was like, oh my gosh, I didn't think plant-based was going to be this. I thought I was going to have something I would have to, kind of turn my nose up and just get through. And they're so pleasantly surprised. That's why now I take all my coaching clients through that cleanse first, because until you go through it, you just don't know. So yeah, they all do it. They're all usually pleasantly surprised, because like I said, most of the time I'm working with meat eaters and they never think that would be the case.
Yeah, I bet. And then when they come back and they feel all better and they're, in their next few meetings or whatever, do they often go like, okay, what else you got?
Well, most of them are like, I just want to continue to feel this way.
Yeah.
So like I tell them, it's no surprises. It's no like a magic to it. It's meant to do this. And I mean, you can continue on, because I started out with just like doing a 5-day cleanse. And so people are like, oh, okay, well, what I do next? I'm like, well, this is it. Like, you can just continue this your whole life. It doesn't necessarily have to be something you go on and off of. But it was just kind of like a snapshot, so you can actually know that you would feel better, to get kind of like their buy-in, that could be just their lifestyle. Because I use diet interchangeably, but I don't mean it as diet as the marketing term that people use to go something on and off of, but just as their eating style. But I definitely want them to try to make it into a lifestyle.
What is the benefit of cleansing first and then entering into plant-based diet versus just entering into a plant-based diet?
So it actually is all the same, but I call it a cleanse because that's like people, if they know that they have to change and not go back, they have that mind block. But if they're like, oh, I just have to do it for 5 days, I can do that for 5 days, right? So that's why I said once we're done with that 5 days, they're like, what do I do now? I'm like, you just continue on eating like this. That's just kind of unfortunately a mind trick for them to buy into it or to know. Because like I said, I work with meat eaters, so they're like, there's no way I would be satisfied with just eating plant food. so that's what it is.
Yeah.
You know, the funny thing about that is I visited your Instagram yesterday, and I was looking at all of the different recipes that you have up and the little videos of the food and that sort of thing. I saved a bunch of them to my save file because I told Dan, I'm like, let's make this weekend. Let's make this weekend. And it all looked extremely delicious and fulfilling and all of those things. Honestly, it looked better than what I have on my plate most of the time. And, you know, I consider myself a decent cook, but I was like, wow, this is really appetizing. And I think a lot of times people might not even realize that there's a lot of variety. You know, growing up, everything was sides for me personally. You know, you had your potato, you had your carrots, you had your meat, you know, and that old fashioned food group, the pyramid.
Right.
And, there were some meals that food would get mixed together. You know, you had your soups and things like that. But now what you can make is just so appetizing. One of my daughters, my youngest daughter, her favorite dish that I make is a soup that has literally every vegetable in it you could possibly ever imagine. And she's not a vegetable eater. So that's how I put her nutrition in, was here, have the soup. So it really is appetizing to eat that way as well.
Yes, it is. And most of I could say the videos on there I take from plant-based chefs or dietitians, because I tell people I'm not the, you know, magnificent cook or anything like that. I try to keep things simple. But I do like to share, you know, what creations can be made, because some people love being in the kitchen and making those different dishes because they don't like things that are plain. So I'm glad you're able to see that, because that's like what most people think. Oh, they think, oh, cardboard. Oh, it's just going to be so boring. I'm not going to have any variety. I'm not going to be able to eat anything. And like anything that you eat with meat, you can do with just plants. So it's so much variety that you can do. Every single food, every single type of food group that you would have. Italian, Mexican, you know, those are my favorites. So I would pick those two. But Asian, you know, all those would be, you can do them all plant-based. All the time I tell people is like, if you want to go out to eat, the only place you do not want to go to is a steakhouse, because that's usually where they never have, you know, purely plant-based things. Usually everywhere else they do. At a steakhouse, you'll get some lettuce and tomato, and that's it. But I just like to, you know, trick people with that. But there's so many different flavors that you can put together. Caribbean flavors. I'm just thinking like someone was talking about Jamaican food that I saw recently. So I mean, it's just mind blowing of how many different things you can eat.
Now, how does your faith play a role in all that you do?
So that is big, because like I said, starting out back to 6th grade, not knowing anyone in the physician community, not knowing how much work it would be. I was, you know, I think I was a great student, but it definitely takes a lot of work, and you definitely need to know how to get in and out. Definitely my grandparents, parents, sisters all prayed for me as I was going through the different processes and just trying to figure out what's going on. So I actually, when I went to undergrad, I was like, oh my gosh, you know, this is hard, you know, going to college and getting the grades. And I remember crying to my dad because I got a C in one class. I'm like, it's over. I'm never going to get into medical school now. And it just so happened that the undergrad that I picked, again, nobody went to that school, that it was actually associated with, I went to Northern Kentucky University, so I can say that. And then it was affiliated with the University of Louisville School of Medicine.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that at the time when I picked it. I was just trying to find money to be able to go to college, because my parents had 2 older children and they were in college. So I was like, I already knew, being the third one, I needed to find money to go to school. And my advisor told me to apply to the University of Louisville. I was just going to try to go back home to Indiana, because I'm from Indiana. And I actually got into the University of Louisville, and then they had scholarships for minority students or people that were going to serve the underserved community. And so I was like, every single path that I took, I couldn't have, known in my mind that that's what it was going to be. So the Lord was just guiding me along the way as my grandparents and parents were praying, like, this is where you need to go, because I didn't know, like I said, anything about Northern Kentucky. I just happened to find it. No, I didn't happen to find it. The Lord placed it there. I got into University of Louisville, placed me there. I got to go back home for residency because I was like missing home. So, I mean, every single step that I took, the Lord was just there. And then even after that, to come now to be on like this podcast talking to you all, like I said, I'm a reader. I'm an introvert. I like to stay to myself. I don't like to talk. And he was like, my people need to hear this. Like I said, I grew up in the church and just would see people dying from these illnesses. Like I said, and it was just like, I need you out there to be my voice. I led you
awesome.
This way, and I need you out there telling, Christian people that you need to eat better. You need to exercise. It's not just about praying. You need to take care of your physical temple so that you can actually carry out my will. And this is my purpose to be here. And like I said, I always shake when I'm like out here doing these things, but I'm like, I know the Lord will not lead me astray. So I am here telling the stories to, hopefully inspire someone to take the next step in their health. And therefore, after they're actually healthy in their physical body, they can actually go out and do their spiritual work.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. That's one thing that struck me when I was reading through the things you have online, because you hear a lot about health, but one of the first times I think I've heard you to be healthy in order to fulfill what God has for you to do. That's such an awesome piece to put together and message to give people that really like perked my interest. And I think that's really from God. And, it made me think about myself, like, get healthy because God has a lot for you to do.
Right.
You're going to need energy to do that.
Yes. Because like I said, there's so many illnesses in the churches today. Like I always tell people that the prayer list is the only thing that's growing. Like it's the church itself. The people are not growing because they don't have them out there doing ministries. I'm a big advocate of prayer, but there's some things that we put on ourselves that we can actually change. And like I said, that was what God has instilled in me. And it was just more recently, I would say in the past, 5 to 6 years, that when I started doing this, that I actually put that together. But that's like had been in the back of my mind all the time, because growing up, I would see ministers that were like severely overweight, and they would just be sitting there, and then to see them get like diabetes and heart disease, I'm like, is this what you really want for your people, Lord? Like, how are they, the ones that are suffering? And then it was like, yeah, you're coming out to talk to them about this. I was like, okay.
That makes so much sense. I am sitting and thinking about, from your point of view, you have this gift of medicine, and you work hard at just finding out all the ways that you can use that gift to help other people, which also means you have a gift of service, right? Because what you're in is a caring profession. And it would be so hard to sit back and I'm picturing that moment. You're reading this prayer list, or, people are raising their hands. Can I have prayer for this? Or can I have prayer for that? And I think about how many times I've been at church and it's, so-and-so has to have a coronary artery bypass. This one's got diabetes and they're in the hospital and they are in ketoacidosis, or, all the different things that might go on, and please pray for them. And yes, by all means, we pray for them and God heals.
Ma'am.
Also, just like Moses stepping out into the water, he had to take that step, and God still provided, and God was there, but he had his part and his role to play. And we're not perfect, right? We're humans. So we struggle with things like that. We sometimes choose what's easy. We choose what's convenient. But when we can commit that to God as well, how much further could we go? How much opportunity could we have? And the other thing that you say that really stands out to me is that you also work to help people try to reverse some of the things that have been done, because things don't happen overnight, right?
Right.
My dad died of a heart attack when he was very, very young, but he ate red meat his entire life. I mean, I remember him slopping butter on everything, and he was 46 when he died.
Wow.
And had he taken better care of his body, he'd likely still be here because there were really no other risk factors. His mom lived to be like 89, 92, somewhere in that vicinity.
Right.
Well into her older age. And I always said she was really progressive for the era she grew up, but she was a vegetarian. And so
exactly.
Yes. So it's, and then I have another sister as well, and she's a vegetarian too. And she's healthy in so many ways. And I look at her and I'm like, you don't look your age, you look great, and so it inspires me. I do eat meat, not a lot of it. I'm probably what you were referring to as vegetable dominant, but I have those little pieces, or there'll be some in my soup, or, things like that. But this definitely inspires me to think, but do I need it?
Right.
Do I want it? Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Like what you said, like the people that have these illnesses that they can reverse. And this takes me to a client that I'm actually helping now, is that she didn't see the numbers that she wanted to see in 3 months. And I was sent her a message back and say, well, you have to remember, this didn't happen in 3 months. Like you said, it took decades for you to get here, because she's, an older lady. And so we have to give our body a chance to kind of reverse those things. We have a lot of inflammation that builds up in our body. So I'm just thinking of, like, when I was younger, I had a lot of like processed meats. So I tell everybody, hot dogs, bacon, sausage, bologna, all those processed meats. That's what I grew up on until I became a vegetarian at the age of 16. But you have those things that your body actually goes through, and you have one body. It's not like once you get older, it's different from what you were doing when you were younger. So Doritos, Coca-Cola, all those types of things that I was eating actually affected my body and will affect your body. And that it's not just all of a sudden I developed diabetes, all of a sudden I have heart disease. No, it's been building up over decades. And so if we take those steps, we can actually start to reverse those things, decrease that inflammation in your body, and then it will actually get better. So it does take a little bit of time, but I'll again go back to that 5 days to where people actually start to feel better and know that it's possible. Then that's when they actually have the buy-in to continue on.
Now, I saw as well, you were part of a book. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, Made for More, Physician Entrepreneurs. So I am actually in a business school where we have a physician health coach, our business coach that actually helps us to actually help with the business side of medicine. So whatever we want to do to actually help, because we don't get business education, as a physician. And so she actually helps us to actually build that business knowledge. And so she had the idea that we should write a collaboration book to actually show other physicians that they can become entrepreneurs also and be, savvy in business. So my chapter was just talking about what I already said about me being an introvert, not really wanting to be out there. And that actually coming through the business school and learning business skills, and through the grace of God, like I said, it takes him every single time. Like I was praying before I even got on here, like, give me words to say, that I just, spoke of my story of how I was, very timid and didn't want to actually come out, but actually to get the message out, you have to put yourself out there. You have to be out there for people to hear you. You may be criticized, but your story is worth telling and you need to go on. And so it's filled with, I believe, 46 other physicians in different areas. So we practice. Some of them have like product-based businesses. Some of them do things that are totally outside of healthcare, like negotiation coaches and things like that. So it was just a book to inspire other physicians to know that they can actually be entrepreneurs and businessmen and women.
That's great. So one thing that stands out to me again is just you have this ability, I think, that's really unique to be able to see beyond the limits I don't know if that's just your personality or if you
No,
have
that's God given. Like that's not natural. That's always something I like. The prayers, the affirmations that I do actually talk about those things. So I think it's just continuously doing that. So I don't know where that came from, but that I don't think that's my own excuse me natural thing that I would take credit for.
God's gift.
Yes.
Yeah. And what would you say to somebody who maybe was, gosh, I really want to do this, or I want to take that next step, but maybe I'm nervous or I don't know where to start?
Yeah, I always tell them fear the fear and do it anyway, because you never know what will happen. Never did I think, like I said, I would be out here doing this. And I usually tell them my story because when people hear me out here talking, they're like, oh, she must be a natural talker. She just loves to get out there in the spotlight. And that's not the case. So when they hear that and the things that I've tried, they're like, okay, what will it hurt? You usually don't fail. You usually just learn. Even if it doesn't turn out how you want it. You actually learn something new, a new skill, something that you may not think that it would lead you to where you want to go. So I tell people I started out doing like a marketing business where I was talking about travel and didn't know that would actually give me skills and actually knowledge to learn different things. Actually, from that, I learned how to help with finances, like become debt free, things like that. So even if you're taking steps and it doesn't necessarily take you to what you think you should be doing, it's going to give you those skills to actually get you where you need to go. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, that's a really good point. And
yeah,
I definitely see that happen a lot. Mm-hmm. Your family, it sounds like, was just so wonderful and supportive growing up. And your gratitude for them is just, you light up every time you talk about them. When you think back about the biggest lesson they gave you in your life?
I would have to say it's prayer. My grandmother, like I said, both of them were very strong women of faith, and just to see them, they like it's funny. They both were like Sunday school teachers or vacation Bible school teachers. Yeah. And my grandmother would always joke at how she would come, to pick us up for Sunday school, but she wasn't playing. She wasn't going to be late, so you better be standing at the door. And if she had to honk her horn more than once, that was before you had cell phones and things, you were going to be left that day. So you didn't want to make grandma upset, so you were at the door waiting. But they definitely instilled in me the faith to have in God and then in myself to just go on. Like I said, they were highly people that would encourage you. Education was key. So I mean, it's so much there because I don't think I would have continued on without them. My dad and my mom, they're always in my corner. Even now, I still call my mom, like, Mom, I need help with this, because she has a whole nother skill set that I don't have. So you never outgrow your parents of what they can do. So I thank God for the parents and grandparents that I have. Just wonderful. I tell them I chose right when I chose my parents and grandparents.
In looking and thinking about your business and everything that you're doing right now, how would, we pray for a lot of people. So how could we pray for your business? What is it that you would like us to pray for?
Just that I continue on and continue to let God use me to be out there speaking. Because like I said, speaking is still my biggest fear, to be out there in front of people, to actually hear, even though I know that they may not want to hear what I have to say, they need to hear what I have to say. And that there are people out there that's waiting to hear this message because they're just like, I didn't know that was possible. So that's my strength, because it's like, oh my goodness, it's very draining on me emotionally, because like I said, I'm an introvert. I like to stay to myself. So just prayers for that, to keep that strength going, to actually get the word out, because I know it will definitely change people's lives, and that the kingdom of God will be so much better when our human temple is better to actually carry out God's will. And that's usually how I end a lot of my speeches, is that if we as a people would actually come together we wouldn't necessarily have to depend on the government to do certain things. Like we're always like, we're waiting for bailouts from them. But if the community of God will come together and actually pour their own finances as they're doing better in business and pour it into the church, they will actually be able to help those in need. So that's my bigger goal, the global thing when I think about it, that our God's kingdom on earth will actually be able to help more people.
Amen. Yes, that is 100%. That's perfect. Now, for people who want to find you, do you have a waiting list? How do they go about getting into coaching?
So they can go to my website at dramandamd.com. They can book a free 20-minute consult call. We can decide if that's if we're a good fit for each other, because sometimes, people have a different idea of what they want. And I'm like, well, that's not really what I do to get the most out of each visit. So and then if they want to see me as a personal physician, I'm actually in the Northern California area. I work out in Fairfield. So if they're actually in that area, they can look me up there. But most time people just look me up through the website with health coaching. And then, like you said, I have Instagram and Facebook, Dr. Amanda Adkins. My last name is spelled Adkins. And they can also follow me there. And if they have questions, they can always send me a personal message.
Well, wonderful. Well, is there anything else you can think of that maybe we didn't think to ask?
I always tell people, if you're not already doing it, make sure you're adding fruits and vegetables to every single meal. That's a good place to start if you're not already plant-based, but just trying to become more healthy. Because most of the time we're lacking that fiber. We have mostly, like that fast food is, ham, vegetables. So add in fruits and vegetables to every single meal.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We're super excited about everything you have going on. And honestly, I'm thinking myself, my goodness, how do you find the time to do all of this? And I'm like, it's probably that plant-based diet.
that is it. The energy. Like I said, yes. I sleep better. I was up at 5:30 to get ready for this. I have my prayer time things, and then going about the day.
Oh my goodness, she was just delightful and full of light and life. And I love her mission. It's so necessary and important.
Yep, she's energetic. She's very well spoken, but it's because she's very focused and she knows what she wants to do. And she knows the mission that God has her doing. And she's moving forward and just doing it.
And that message is so important. She talks about the remarkable changes that our lifestyle can make on our health and how that impacts our ability to fulfill God's will for our lives. If you want to learn more about Dr. Amanda Adkins and the incredible work that she's doing, her website will be in our show notes. Thank you for listening to That's the #Truth. Remember to catch new episodes every other week on your favorite podcast channels. To learn more, visit us at jennymuscatell.com or muscatellministries.com.